Hello and welcome back to the channel, welcome back to the RDA. This is our reaction to Mr. Ralf Rangnick's press conference ahead of the Newcastle game. It's been a while. It's been a while since we've done one of these, obviously because games have been cancelled due to COVID and all of that. And like I've said, I have not heard or read anything about the press conference. It's going to be literally my first time reading it up today. So yeah, let's just see. Supposedly he was asked a bunch of questions. They had a meeting, I believe, with the Premier League to discuss about competitions and player welfare and all of that. So that's always good to hear. So yeah, let's just get straight into it. He was asked first question. I guess the obvious place to start is where everybody's focus is at the moment on the current situation for you and your squad on COVID. Could you update us? Just a bit of a weird question, I guess, but relative in what's the situation going around us. He replied saying yes. As you know, last week he had our last training session on Thursday. On that day we had 8 outfield players and 3 goalkeepers, and we closed down the training ground for 4 days in order to break the chain. Today was our 3rd day of training this week. We started on Tuesday, we trained yesterday, and today we had 25 outfield players, which is very good, very good. Quite apart from Paul Pogba, he's the only one missing out. Everyone was on board, so yeah, the development in the last week was extremely positive. And what that tells me is that basically everyone besides Paul Pogba should be available for Newcastle. That means Varane should come back into the team, That means people like Martial should be, somewhat back into the team. Whether he plays or whether he gets benched or something, he should be in the squad, So all these players that have been missing over the past few weeks, they should all be back, like I said, besides Paul Pogba, which is very exciting because we haven't seen Rafael Varane for quite a while at Manchester United, and every time he's played, he's just been a different level of quality at the back. So great to have him. Next question in Ralf was asked, said, do you feel you're in good shape now for that fixture at Newcastle? Which is a good question, I feel, because if I was Ralf, it's easy to say that we kind of miss Ralf. It's almost like we tend to forget he's the new manager, and even though we've had a big break without United, Ralf wouldn't really have many training sessions with them because it was due to COVID. And when people got COVID and you can only have like 8 outfield players, like you said, the one training session, you can't really do much. You can't really coach people that much. You can't really work with the players that much. So it's very weird. But Ralf said, yes, we will train tomorrow and there will be a day off for the players on Christmas Day. And then we have the last session here on Sunday. We'll fly Sunday afternoon, Sunday evening to Newcastle. So Ralf just basically saying, no matter what, he'll be prepared. Straight to the point. The next question Ralf was asked, there's been a lot of talk about player welfare and 5 substitutions. This is what I mentioned earlier in the show with regards to the meeting the Premier League had, and there were various ways of helping the players over this period. What do you think about and what do you think about it, and what should happen? What's your view as someone new? And just quickly before I read Ralph's response, I think this is very important personally because you look what happened with people like Eriksen, like Aguero, like even Victor Lindelof. Wish Victor all the best, but it's happening a bit too much in football. Like De Gea said, we are human. The players are human, so it's easy to forget. And like I said, the sport is relentless. What other sport you play every 3 days, week in, week out? They haven't had a break since the Euros. Then they came straight back into this. Then after this, they'd go World Cup and then come back. So players' welfare is very important. I think it's something slacking in football these days. But anyways, he replied, as far as I remember, the 5 substitutions were implemented, or it was decided that every team could sub 5 players when COVID started 2 years ago, or one had half a year ago. I think that was the right decision to do that, to have more options, to change players, to save energy for players, especially if they only just recovered from COVID. The same is true right now. So we have a similar situation to the one we had 1.5 years ago, and therefore I wouldn't see any reason why it shouldn't be as it was 1.5 years ago, basically being all for the 5 substitution rule, and which is, I can understand, I can definitely understand, because one, I do believe 5 substitutions will help when rotating players, resting certain players, looking after players. I do like it, and obviously, if you play devil's advocate, even if it wasn't for the players' welfare, it helps big teams like United, like the City, I wouldn't say, maybe some, to an extent Liverpool, but the teams that have big squads, lots of talented players on the bench, we should still, regardless, be fine. And for a big team like City, for example, just to make 5 substitutions can change a game. So that's where the devil's advocate comes in. But in terms of the players, I do believe the 5 substitution rule is pretty good, as I know. And then he said, as far as I know, in Europe, England is the only country where they allow 3 subs. In all other big leagues in Europe, you can substitute 5 players I believe like it's like that in the Champions League as well. And on the other hand, you are still allowed to have 8 outfield players on the team sheet. And if you have 8 outfield players on the team sheet, you should also be able to replace 5 because you can only replace 3. You will always have 5 who cannot be substituted or cannot play. So that was Ralph's thoughts there. Ralph was also said, well, Ralph was also asked, sorry, you've only just come to England, but what's your view on having to play a game on the 26th? You are on the 27th, and other teams are on the 26th, and other teams will play 2 days after and then 3 days after. Should it be something done to clear space and help teams? More games are being called off on Boxing Day. Ralph basically replied saying, I mean, you know that better than I do. With a big tradition, this is to play England on Boxing Day. It is a very big tradition, especially within the Premier League to play on Boxing Day. Boxing Day fixtures are always a big deal. He said to play on the 27th, even on the 30th and 2nd of January. This is a big tradition. I think we should stick to it and respect this tradition. I'm looking forward to that. The first time in my coaching career that I'll be part of that. But I think there might be 2 or 3 other issues that can be discussed and have been discussed in the past. England is the only country in the top 5 leagues that plays 2 cup competitions. Even France, I think they abolished the second one a year or 2 ago. Currently, we are the only country that plays 2 cup competitions. This is something maybe we could once again speak about this and discuss. I know the reason for that. The Carabao Cup has been still kept for the 3rd and 4th division teams, especially to help improve financial situation of those clubs, which I agree with. You know, it's always about the money at the end of the day. If we speak about a tight calendar and playing too many games, this could be something where we could speak and discuss. Now, I somewhat agree to that because, yeah, we all want to watch as many United games as possible, whatever your team may be. And yes, it probably does help a little bit financially to the smaller teams. But, like, again, the Carabao Cup isn't really as big of a tradition as, like, an FA Cup thing. And I think it just, at the end of the day, it is based on finance and more games. That's all it is about, I think. So, personally, if they were to, like, just say abolish the Carabao Cup, I couldn't care less, to be honest, so I don't really mind. And so the other issue I think has been changed now in the last 2 weeks is that in the FA Cup, after a draw you have a replay. That's true. This has been changed now. I think this is also a good idea. In other countries' cup competition, to play extra time and then penalties. You never have to replay situations. I like that also. I don't know why they would have a replay game. Again, it's all probably down to the revenue, the money and all of that. So it's all very weird. But yeah, it is what it is. Next question Ralph was asked. Picking up on this week, just how challenging has it been to prepare the game and get everyone back in the training ground, and just what is the availability? Which is a repetitive of what Ralph already basically answered. He already said that basically everyone bar Paul Pogba is ready, but he did say as far as I could see in training today, they're all in good shape. They've done their homework. I'm guessing Ralph would have said, you know, keep up the shape, don't eat junk food, do research on the video analytics. I would have probably representing major things. You'd have probably spoken to the players about lots of things over the phone, whether it be over what Zoom, whatever it is. You know, I would expect Ralph to be that type of manager. But anyways, he said they all have schedules to train at home, and they stuck to that schedule and to that program. From what I saw today in training, I can say most of them, if not all of them, might be available. And of course, I would have to take some difficult decisions who will be in the squad and who will not be in the starting 11. And I think, judging by that, I would say Varane definitely walks straight back in. Paul Pogba won't be available for at least this game, but again, that's another difficult decision Ralph will have. When Pogba's back, what is he going to do with Mr. Paul Pogba, you know? So let's just see with Martial, you know, Rashford's not in good form. Is he going to play Martial out of nowhere? Donny's, you know, the likes of Bailly's, who knows? Let's just see what happens. The last question he was asked was the Premier League met earlier this week. The shareholders, the managers and players due to meet later today. What are you hoping to hear from the Premier League? What do players want to hear about player welfare? And Ralph said, I think most of these things have already been spoken about. It would be of great help to have 5 substitutions, once again pushing that. This would increase and improve emotional situation in the squad because there's a big difference if you can give 5 players game time. I like that answer because it's true. You know, you do get more players opportunity, and if you give more players opportunity, you do keep them happier. So I agree with that also. It's also about game time, and therefore I would be much more in favor of having 5 subs. As I said, in other countries they do that. I think we should seriously think about that once again. I haven't spoken with my players about that, but I don't need to because I know that most of the players would be in favor of that. I definitely agree with Ralph there. Apart from that, the Premier League will try everything to keep the league safe, to keep the situation on the players safe at the club. We do that regularly. We have to encourage players to have discipline with regards to contact. We also have to make sure that we have most of our players vaccinated. As far as I'm aware, we have a high record of vaccinated players here in our club, but the past 2 weeks show that even if you've been vaccinated 2-3 times, you can still be catching the virus, which is very true. Having the vaccine doesn't mean you're just immune to COVID or it's a cure for COVID. No, you can still catch it. look at Malota and Clay. The double backs got COVID for second time, and it sucks. It sucks. So you're not immune to it. No one's immune to it. It's very sad, but hopefully we can get through it. And it says you're not being protected from catching it, but at least you are being protected from severe symptoms. As far as I know, most of our players who were tested positive, at least they had very, very weak symptoms, and they didn't suffer from that. I like that from Ralf, and that's basically all Ralf had to say. I'd say lots of political and relevant, political relevant questions were asked. Not much about the football. How can they be? I mean, to be fair, we haven't had much of the football from United or many teams in general in the Premier League. So good to have him back. Good to hear from Ralf. I always love listening to Ralf. It's just the quality of Ralph's presses compared to like Ollie's. It's a whole different level. It seems like he knows what he's doing. He knows what he's talking about. Whereas Ollie was just, it wasn't the best. Let's just be honest. It just wasn't the best. But anyways, good to see Ralf. Like I said, good to hear the players all back. Hopefully Paul Pogba can come back soon, because those are two of my favorite players. So let's just see what happens. Anyway, smash a like on the video, subscribe if you're new, let me know your thoughts, and I'll check you all very soon. Goodbye.